Looking for real stories that lift you up? Welcome to Inspire and Impact, the podcast where purpose meets perseverance. This is where transformation begins and your story continues.
Kelly, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today. I really appreciate it. Can you share with the audience a little bit about yourself, please?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, my name is Kelly Meyer. My wife and I run a company called Project Find Your Fire. It's about personal growth and development, re-becoming the person, unbecoming who you used to be and re-becoming who you should have been. I am a board-certified international transformational coach, speaker, author. I've been doing one-on-one coaching, group coaching, facilitating workshops and public speaking for almost 30 years now. Not quite 30, but pretty close. Author of several publications, a game developer that we created, and everything sort of borders around our values of growth, relationships, and wellness. Now, how I got to where I am in my life, my background is in academia. So I did my undergrad in education and psychology. I did my master's work in education and with an emphasis in psychology and human behavior. And then when I did my doctoral work, I loaded up on all the psychology classes I could and used those as towards my education doctorate. I had no desire to become a clinical psychologist, and so I never went further on that side of the degree. However, once I started teaching high school, K-12. Music is my discipline. And I had those kids that would come into my office, the kids that didn't want to go home for whatever reason. They felt safe in my office, and that led to me sort of talking to them and sort of discovering them and helping them through some different troubles in their life. I got a call one day from one of the dads, and I thought I was in trouble, right? I thought I was going to get my butt kicked. And he said to me, "Are you talking to my kid?" And I really was scared. But I was honest. I said, "Yes, I am." And he paused. And then he said, "Would you talk to me too?" I said, "Yes, I absolutely would." So that led to talking to parents, which led to talking to friends of parents, which led to, doing workshops and talking to all of these different people. Now I'm starting to coach and do the workshops. And now I'm starting to be asked to do some keynote speaking kind of things, just small events. But that was in the mid to late 90s. And so as we progressed through, this just sort of built. And so within 5-7 years of that happening, I'm doing 2 full-time jobs. I have the coaching and workshops and stuff that I'm doing, and I'm doing my teaching. So I start to teach college. And as this is all progressing, Project Find Your Fire is a full-blown thing. Now we're traveling internationally. We're doing the thing while I'm teaching. So I have an associate professorship at the university here, or I did. I left teaching in 2016. There was a reorganization in the university sort of setup, and it was a stressful time. And I had a conversation with my wife, and we decided that, maybe it's time. I'd been in the classroom for a lot of years. And so stepping out of that, saying that I'm leaving teaching was scary because that's what I've always done. Right? And I did it and I never looked back. And the reason I haven't is because I'm still teaching. I'm just not in the classroom with the kids. But I also don't have to grade master's theses at 3:00 in the morning so that their deadlines are met, which is a beautiful thing. And so this is what we do now full time. So that's how I got to where I am.
Well, that's a very amazing story. I mean, when you made that transition to, having your own business, was there maybe like some fear, some doubt, like in the very beginning, like, oh no, because that's like a very big decision to leave like a full-time job at a university, which is a steady paycheck, to work on yourself. Like, I mean, what was going through your mind at the time? Like, were you like really like full in, like we're definitely doing this. This is it.
Well, yeah, it was both, because I have always been the kind of person that If I'm going to do something, I'm full in. I am all in to do it. And it was scary as hell at the same time, right? Because that's what I always know. That's what my education was about. That's what all of my experience was about. And then I realized that all of that education and all that experience, the initials after my name don't really matter. It's turning that knowledge into wisdom, and how can we incorporate that into our lives? And so, as scary as it was, I knew that I was going to go full in, and I wasn't going to stop. And so I felt confident in that, in how we do things around here. That's always been sort of my personality. And there's a story that actually starts that off, and I'll tell you that here in just a second. But when I made that decision to leave education and go into our business full time, yes, absolutely scary. And then we start to have those limiting self-doubts, right? Like, maybe I'm not good enough to do this. Maybe I'm not going to get any clients. Maybe nobody's going to hire me to do this stuff. But at the same time, I've got plenty of clients. People are already hiring me to do stuff. So it was just, it's our brain. It's that ego part of our brain trying to find everything that could go wrong and trying to convince us that failure is a real possibility. So I want to jump back now to the story about sort of why I go full in all the time when I do things. And this goes back to, I was maybe 14. I wasn't even in high school yet, I don't think. And I started spending a lot of time in a place I probably shouldn't have been, the pool. But my excuse was school was boring and I really loved playing pool. So I spent more time at the pool hall than I did in school. There were a couple classes I went to, band and art, but then I would go back to the pool hall. But I went in one morning, and as I walked into the pool hall, there was an old man sitting at the end of the bar, and he got off of his stool and started walking towards the front door as I'm walking towards the back. I've never seen the guy before. And I had gotten to know the people who visit the pool hall. And as he got to me, he stopped and he said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm Kelly." And he laughed a little bit and he said, "No, you're not. And the sooner you figure that out, the better off you'll be." And he walked out the door. Now, here I am, a scrawny little pimply face junior high punk. And I thought, what a weirdo. Crazy old drunk guy in the morning hassling some little kid. But as it turned out, shortly after this, I started going through that phase in my teen years, that discovery phase where we try to figure out who we are and what we represent and where we fit into the life. And that's a hard question for kids to answer. But when I hit that point in my life when I was feeling lost, it was actually the old man and his words that came back to me. The sooner you figure it out, the better off you'll be. So at that point, I made a conscious decision. This is who I am. This is what I'm going to represent. And this is where I'm going to fit into the life. And I was able to move forward while I watched all of my other friends jump back and forth over fences trying to figure out who they are. Well, the truth is, we have to constantly reinvent ourselves as humans. We evolve. We become different people. I'm going to be 56 in a couple of months, and I still go through these phases. I have to reinvent, rediscover myself. Who am I? What do I represent? And where do I fit into this life? And every time that's happened in my life, it was the old man's words that always came back to me. The sooner you figure it out, the better off you'll be. Now, does that mean we're going to be right every time? No, not at all. Sometimes we're going to really miss the mark, but that's okay. Take a stand, make a decision, and move forward, and you can alter course as you move. That's fair. And so I believe it's the old man and his words that I have used as a tool to sort of help me jump into whatever it is that I'm going to do. The sooner you figure it out, the better off you'll be. And it's never failed me.
Wow, that's really amazing. I mean, can I ask you, like, how do you coach people in a similar situation if they're like stuck in a job that they don't find fulfilling and thinking about having their own business? Like, what type of advice do you give to those type of people?
Well, The first thing is we have to take a close look, because I'm never going to have somebody jump off of a cliff that they haven't studied, right? You need to know what you're getting yourself into. And secondly, I don't expect everybody to make, that full on jump like I did. Sometimes people have to wade through it. I once had, and sometimes the answer is really simple. I once had a guy who came to me and he said, Kelly, I can't seem to level up in my life. I've been working at the same factory job for 25 years and, I make good money. I've got the car, I've got the house, I can feed my family, but I can't get to the next level in my life. And I said, let me rephrase what you just said to me. You've been doing the same thing for 25 years and expecting a different result. And then it hit him. He's like, yes. We can't do the same thing and expect a different result. If you want to level up in your life, get to a different place, you have to do different things. Now, does that mean you have to leave your job and start, be an entrepreneur, start your own business? Not necessarily. I mean, you can create a new life for yourself, still working the same job you've done for 25 years. You don't have to make these huge shifts. But if you are somebody who wants to, leave your 9 to 5 and start your own business, we're going to take a look. Have you done the research? Do you have the support? Do you have all of these different things in your back pocket so that when you are ready to jump out of that plane, you have what you need to land safely on the ground? Now, it's going to be struggle. It's going to be hard. And there are going to be years where your income statement isn't as pretty as it is right now. And that's okay. We just got to keep chugging.
Wow, that's great. And can I ask you, since you've been doing coaching now for like a long period of time, and now it seems like a lot of people want to be coaches, or they call themselves coaches. So it's probably become more of a competitive field. I don't know if you noticed that, since probably when you first started. Do you have like your own unique approach to how you do coaching? Or do you have like some type of like secret sauce method, like a particular, do you trademark a method or something like that that says like that makes you stand out from all these other coaches that you just, so you don't come across as just like another coach?
Yeah. And so we've gone through this sort of phase, like you mentioned, in that a lot of people believe that, you can take that $9.99 coaching certification class that you see advertised on Facebook, and now suddenly you're qualified to become a life coach. My wife and I, very early on, decided that we were going to treat this as a full-on profession. In other words, we require a certain amount of professional development for ourselves. And me coming from the academia world, I'm familiar with that. I mean, we have to continually evolve and grow within our discipline in academia so that we can be at the top of the game. She comes from a corporate background, which is also true. So she has to go through the Six Sigma and the different things to, reach these different milestones so that she can be at the top of that game. And so when we started coaching, we decided that we are going to do the same thing and hold ourselves accountable. We're not doing the $9.99 coaching certification classes. We are going to travel the world and learn from the greatest leaders when it comes to human development, cognitive development, and we're going to learn from them, and we're going to, do the certifications, and we're going to do the extra coursework, and we're going to do all of this stuff so that we can become better. Because personal development isn't about us. It's about everybody else around us. So when I am working on myself, it's not just for myself. I mean, it is for myself. Let's be honest. I want to be a better person. But at the same time, my wife needs me to be a better husband, just a little bit. I'm a pretty good husband, but she wants a little bit more. And that's fair. My kids want me to be a better dad, and I'm a pretty good dad, but they want me to be a better dad, just a little bit. My friends need me to be a better friend, just a little bit. And so it's about all of those people we surround ourselves. My clients need me to show up and be ready for anything they might throw at me. And I can't do that if I don't hold myself accountable so that I can help them grow. But if we can become 1% better than we were yesterday, at the end of the year, who wouldn't want to be 365 times the person they are right now, right? Now, as we were doing this, we took, and I, of course, have lots of background in education and experience in human behavior, general psychology. So what we did is we created our own methodology that we use. And actually, I have our book right here in front of me. This isn't a book that you can buy. It comes, if you sign up for coaching, you will get the entirety of the book. You'll have everything that's in it. But we designed this book very specifically. The concepts aren't always new, but the way they're ordered and the way they are approached is something we've never seen before. And when we started using it, we noticed that we were getting results very, very quickly. Now, I'm also certified in NLP and I am EMDR practitioner. So it's like all of this stuff sort of came together in our methodology. And so when we use this, depression, anxiety, fears, phobias, anger, anything, just very quickly we can get a grasp on. Now, does it mean that we can cure your depression in a session or two? No, it takes work. And it varies from client to client, but we're not doing 3 years of talk therapy about your depression. You can expect to get a handle on it within 3 to 4 sessions, and then we can move forward from there. So I think what sets us apart is, number one, our background, our education, our experience. We hold ourselves accountable. We treat coaching as a profession. Very, very few people do that anymore. And we've created our own methodology, which even fewer people do, so that we can get results very, very quickly.
Now, is there like a particular like type of people that you help? Like, again, like moms in their 40s and 50s or corporate executives?
For me, it's wide open. For example, when it comes to results-based coaching, I have worked with an Olympic athlete. I have a Major League Baseball player, a PGA golfer. I have an NFL kicker who I've worked with. And that's very results specific to get them in the correct mindset to do what they need to do physically. Am I a golfer? No. I'm not a football player. I did play minor league baseball, but all of these things, I don't have to know the athlete. I just have to know how their mind works. And I know that part of it. I work with CEOs. I work with moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas next door. My youngest is 11. My oldest is 78. And again, it varies. Maybe it's a results, maybe it's depression, maybe it's just becoming a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. So it's pretty wide open for who comes to see me.
Wow, that's very impressive that you're able to work with such a wide range of people, especially people in the NFL and people play golf. Definitely most coaches don't have that type of clientele in their portfolio. When it comes to things like leadership today, we live in such a fast-paced world now, especially with things like AI, that like things are dynamically changing. So how can you coach somebody to be like a better leader in a world that's changing so fast?
Well, to be an effective leader, I believe requires giving of yourself. A leader is somebody who gets the natural follower instead of demands people follow them. I watched Simon Sinek once explain this, and he was working with the Navy SEALs, and he was asking the same question about leadership. Who do you look for in a person? And they drew a graph on the board for him. And the vertical line was performance based, and the horizontal line was character based, or trust is what he called it. So you have performance, then you have trust. Okay, to do that in the camera. And so who do you look for? On one side, you have people who are high performing, but very low trust. And on the other side, you could have somebody who is very trustworthy, but very low performing. Now, the way the SEALs explained performance and trust to him is that one is on the battlefield or at work or in the boardroom. The other one is off the battlefield, or what you're doing at home, what you do to yourself, your character, your morals, your moral compass, your values. That's the trust line. So the SEALs, who are very high performance kind of people, will never include somebody who's super high performance that has a very low trust factor. Instead, they would have somebody who is half to 3/4 performance, but full on trust factor. Because when it comes down to it, they need to know that somebody has their back and somebody can cover where somebody else cannot. That's what being a leader is not just, are you a high performer, but are you somebody that people can rely on and can trust and know that you have their back, which is kind of like relationships too. When I coach relationships, I have guys come to me and they say, well, the relationship should be 50-50, but it's not. They said, no, it's not. A relationship, my wife and I have been married 32 years this year. And I can tell you that a relationship is never 50-50. There are days where it's 90-10 or 10-90, 30-70, 60-40. And if you've been in a long relationship, you understand this, is that there are some days that her 100% is only 10 and I just cover the rest of it. We have each other's back. That's what being a leader within a relationship is. And the same is true on the opposite side. There are some days that 20% is my 100%, and that's all I can give you on that day. Maybe I'm sick. Maybe I'm just busy with stuff, maybe whatever. And she covers the rest of it. She's a leader in the relationship as well. And that's what that is. It's not about being boisterous. It's not about demanding respect or demanding that you be followed, because you won't be if that's the case. It's a matter of portraying yourself, living with a moral compass and values that allow people to know that you have them, that you've got it under control. And when they're having that 10% day, they need to know that you've got it covered, and then they will follow you. Simon Sinek also said, to the group that he was speaking with, which was a business group, he said, and you can see this in any business, he said, just walk into a company and say, who's the butthole? And everybody will point to the same person, right? This is the person that is the complete jerk of the company. They probably are high performing, but they don't have any of that trust line. He said also, conversely, you could walk into a company and say, point to the person that has your back every time. And they will also all point to the same person, a different person. But everybody knows who has their back. That they're going to follow, not.
That's really great. And I want to touch upon what you said before, like, you work with all these like athletes and help them with their performance. Can you explain a little bit more? Like, how does that work? Like you said, like if you're not, a professional athlete yourself, or maybe you had some experience in athletics in the past. I mean, how can you help somebody in the NFL, like, be a better football player? How help somebody be a better golfer if you are not, I mean, like, how, can you explain that process? Is it like a limiting belief that they may be stopping them from being a better performer, or, maybe you can give us a little bit more details on that?
Yeah, the big thing is a level of certainty. Now, they all have a level of certainty. Otherwise, they wouldn't reach that level in their game. Just as we all have a high level of certainty in the things in our life that we're really good at. What's interesting is just because they have reached that level in their game doesn't mean that they are any more or less than what we are. I mean, we reach levels in our game that these guys can never attain to. Now, the bank accounts are different. We have to understand that, but they are no different than we are. So when it comes to certainty, we all have those moments in our life where we feel beat down. Maybe it's a relationship where we got our heart completely broken. And now we have a belief system that says, I can't be in a positive relationship anymore. I mean, everybody just treats me like crap. It takes advantage of me. And so all your relationships after that end up being negative, toxic kind of relationships. So our belief system. Okay, so let me preface this just a little bit. We have to talk, if we're going to talk about beliefs and certainty, we also have to talk about our values. Now, values are not based on past experiences. Those are things that we believe to be true. In other words, most of us would value love, knowing that being loved makes us feel whole and fulfilled. For the professional athlete, they also value love, but they also know what the perfect shot, the perfect kick, the perfect swing feels like. It just feels right. That's the same thing as, the way we value love. Beliefs are based on past experiences, and our beliefs will remain our beliefs until we can contradict something like that. So even though somebody, like us, a normal Joe, would value love, we could also experience those terrible relationships. So now we have a belief system that love leads to pain. We will intentionally avoid love because we believe that we're avoiding pain. And in doing so, we're leaving part of ourselves unfilled. Now transfer that philosophy over to the professional athlete who's working on their swing, who's working on hitting a fastball, who's working on kicking field goals. We have a value. We know what that feels like to have the perfect swing, to see the ball, to make the kick. We know how that feels, that belief, that value that is good and pure. It just feels amazing to make that one. But at the same time, we might have struck out 9 times in a row, and now we call that a slump. It's not a slump. That's just a change in your belief system. That now you're starting to believe that you can't hit a fastball or a curveball or whatever it might be. If you walk into the batter's box with that belief, your certainty about hitting a fastball has just dropped. Now, how do I work with people like this is if I'm able to, I will go spend time with them. If I'm not able to, I have to do it on video. And so what I'm watching for is, what is their body language telling me as they're walking up to the ball? For example, the golfer, his long game was great and his putting game was great. It was that mid-range game that he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with. And so as he walked up to the tee box for the long game, he walked with confidence and certainty. I could see that on the video. When he hit that mid-range shot, he in his mind already knew he was going to miss his mid-range shot. He wasn't as energized as what he should be. And it took him a couple of shots to get it on the green. Once he's on the green, his body language changed because he knows his putt game, that belief system is intact. So it's about taking the belief system. Now transfer that back to moms and dads and grandpas and grandmas next door, and even the kids that I work with. It's about changing that belief system. Our biggest enemy is so for the athlete, the biggest enemy is the last pitch. The biggest enemy is the last kick, because that's what we're thinking about. For us, the biggest enemy is that deal lost in business, that bad relationship, whatever it might be, the struggles that we have in the morning when we wake up, all the emails that we have to send, all of this crap. I just don't have time to do this anymore. I don't have the support. I don't have all of these things that I need to succeed. But when it comes to my next point is that my definition of success is anytime you are moving towards your goal. Does that mean you're going to hit the shot every time? No. I mean, we're going to fall. We're all going to stumble. But if you're learning and falling forward, you can literally crawl your way all the way to your goal. And that's all success. You could fall and fall and fall, but those falls are all successes. It's sort of how you reframe that and how that affects your beliefs. Does that one make sense? I felt like I rambled just a little bit.
Yeah, no, that was really good. I mean, thank you very much for explaining that, because I was very curious about that. It's like, okay. I mean, it's definitely very interesting. I mean, do you have any idea? Do you think that a lot of these athletes that do perform well, do you think a lot of them have like a coach, like seeing of someone to yourself that helps them propel them to like the next level?
Not always. And that's sort of where I come in. And sometimes with these guys, even after they get out of their slump, whatever it is, some of them will stay with me as coaches. And I firmly believe that we should all have a coach. My wife and I have a couple of different coaches. We have our own personal coaches. We have a personal trainer. We have finance coaches. We have all these people that we work with, because I don't know everything. And even I, as a coach who has done this for so long, I still need people to hold me accountable and help me reach my goals and help push me forward. And my wife does that for me, like I do with her. At the same time, we bring in that third party who can look at it objectively, and say, okay, here's what we need to do. Here's what's going on. And it helps. I believe everybody should have a coach of some sort.
Wow, that's really great. And have you ever, with a lot, I mean, I'm sure you've worked with probably like hundreds of clients, maybe thousands. I mean, is there any story you can share where you maybe have taken somebody from what I call like zero to hero, where like the life was like a huge mess, like, they had no maybe like direction in life, maybe not even a job, or maybe they do have a job, it was terrible. And then after working with you, they became like a huge success, whatever that meant to them.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, they're all zero to hero, because, and I know where you're getting. I know, and I've got a story for you to answer your question. But a lot of times when people come to me, they are feeling like they're zero, even though they're not zero. We can look at them from an outside point of view and be like, you're doing okay. But in their mind, their perception is that they've hit rock bottom, and that's fair. And so we have to play from that playing field. And so when we build them up, each of those landmarks, goals that they hit, they're feeling like, man, here I am. So I don't want to make it a cheesy kind of an answer, but at the same time, everybody goes from zero to hero in some way based on their own perception. I did have a client who came to me. Her goal was to start her own coaching business. And this was a few years ago. And we started working on, what that looks like to get herself together, to get herself some content together and start writing down her own beliefs and values and some of the things that she's been working on. Some of the things like we started at, just sort of giving her some foundation. It was within probably the second session when I discovered through her that she was going through a really, really ugly divorce. And that's when I had to say, okay, time out. We have to stop. Now I need to throw in here, our concept of seasons. And we've all heard about the seasons in our life. And some people look at those a little bit differently, but here's how we use seasons. We all go through a spring in our life. Now, the spring is the time in our life when we're open to new things, to trying new things. Our emotional state is in a place where it's open for newness, to plant those seeds. We all go through a summer in our life. Now, summer is when those seeds start to sprout, but it's not just nurturing those seeds. We have to start weeding things out of our life, because anytime we venture into something new in our life, and I'm sure you know this, when we start something new in our life, something exciting, there are those people, places, things that start to creep in and start to try to choke out the goodness that you're starting to build. That's the time to weed our garden and start eliminating some of those people, places, things from our life so that our seeds can grow and nourish. We all reach a fall in our life. Now, fall is the time of celebration. You know, you've reached a goal, a milestone in your life, and you can harvest that and enjoy the fruits of your labor and look at your journey, whatever it might be, whatever it is, maybe it's financial, health and wellness, or whatever it is, and just celebrate how far you've come. Does that mean your goal is done? No. We still have more to do. It's always moving, but it's a time for celebration and harvest. Winter, now here in Wisconsin, winters can be a little bit harsh and everything is dead. Winter is my favorite season because everything around us has died. It's either literal or figurative, but either way, we're experiencing death. But even though everything around us is dead in winter in Wisconsin, when you go outside and breathe in that cold air, there is something crisp and clean about it. There's something renewing and refreshing that's happening. You see, winter is a time of death, literal or figurative, but it's also a time where a slate is being wiped clean in your life, making room for spring. Now, the way the seasons work is that we may spend 2 weeks in a season. We may spend 2 years in a season. We may jump from season to season. We might be in, summer and we're starting to harvest our stuff and everything is looking beautiful and I'm weeding stuff out, but we experience a death unexpectedly. Now we have to jump to winter and deal with that. And then we can come back after we've dealt with our death in winter. So that's how the seasons work. She believed when she came to me that she was ready for spring. I want to start this new business. I want to do this thing. We discovered very quickly that she was not ready for spring because she was still having to deal with winter. Winter also started to expose some pretty deep, depressive episodes, which further complicated what we deal with in winter. So now we have a few different things that we're having to sort through. Once we began working on that, I discovered that she was, and this is her words, a professional depressant. Because her friends would say, you go depressed all the time. You do it like you're a professional at it. Because she would know what it felt like to go into depression, how long it would last, how she would act during it, what would it feel like coming out of it, how she would act when she came out of it. She had it all mapped out and she didn't even realize it. She actually fought harder. She was one of these that fought harder to keep her depression than to try to get rid of it. She would try to cancel our session. I would get a message, 15 minutes before we were going to meet. She said, no, the depression's hard today. I can't even get out of bed. I'm in bed with a hoodie. I'm not getting out. I'm crying and sobbing and snotting all over the place. I'm not meeting with you. I said, this is exactly when I want to meet with you. I don't want to meet with you on your good days. I want to meet with you right now when you're in this emotional state so that we can hit this while you're here. And it took her a while, but then she sort of came onto that, like, okay, even though I'm having a hard day, let's do this. And so it was time to sort of reframe her and her own perceptions and beliefs to get out of that. We got her out of depression. We got her off her antidepressants. We got her off of We got her through her divorce and the settlement, and we got her started in school. And now she is graduating from a university. Well, she's Canadian, but she's graduating from university with her degree in psychology and coaching. And so she is right now in her residency um, as a therapist. So she has come completely full circle. And like I said, there are a number of stories like that. But when you asked that, she was the one that just came into my mind.
That's a really powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, do you have any like advice to maybe like anybody in the audience who may feel like really stuck in their life? Like, are there any like suggestions? Like, is there like any first steps of what to do if you feel really stuck, like either in your relationship or your career, or you feel like kind of depressed, like you don't know what to do, like you don't have like purpose? Is there any like advice you give to people like that, or is it you really need to speak to you one-on-one to give any advice?
No, I mean, working with me one-on-one, we can go deeper. But really, the biggest advice is to remember that our brains work on patterns. And every pattern creates a behavior, and every behavior creates a specific result. Taking off of something Joe Dispenza said one time, he said, we have emotion. Each emotion creates a thought, and each thought creates behavior. Each behavior creates a result, and those results create an experience for us. Every experience a human experiences creates an emotion. Now we go to bed with that emotion, and we wake up with the exact same emotion. People live in this cycle of redundancy, I call it. Let's say the emotion we feel is angry, frustrated, right? That leads to thoughts. Our thoughts throughout the day are angry and frustrated. That doesn't mean like we hate everybody, but we've had days that we're off and you go to work and it's like nothing just works right. And it's just like frustrating, man. I just ready to be done with today. Like those kind of thoughts. Those thoughts lead to angry, frustrated behavior. Now that doesn't mean you throw things and break stuff. I mean, maybe you do, in which case I happen to know a pretty good coach, but all of our anger, right? All of our behaviors are angry. It's the people we encounter at the grocery store. We're like, get out of my way. You're driving too slow. And then you start, angry, frustrated behaviors. Those behaviors create experiences, angry, frustrated, now experiences. And what emotion do you think we're going to feel from that? Angry and frustrated, right? And that's when we go to bed. And how do you think we're going to wake up? Angry and frustrated. And we just keep living that same day over and over and again. We all know these people. Like when we were kids growing up, you knew where the angry old man lived, right? He lived down on the corner. Don't walk across his lawn. He's just an angry old man. It's just because he's going through a pattern. We all go through patterns. So if you keep doing the same pattern, you're going to keep getting the same results. So if you're feeling stuck in your relationships, in your job, in yourself, whatever it might be, if you're feeling stuck, change your pattern. And here's how simple it is. Wake up at a different time. If you normally wake up at 6 o'clock, wake up at 5:50. Change your morning routine. Lots of times people have this morning routine. They do the exact same thing every day. I do too. But change it up. Instead of getting out of bed, going to pee, brush your teeth, get some breakfast, whatever it is, change it. Just switch it up. Do the same thing. Maybe open up your window, get some sunshine first thing in the morning, then brush your teeth, then pee, then shower, whatever it is. Just switch it. Take a different route to work in the morning. Most people will take the exact same route to work every day. Take a different route. Go into a different door when you go into work. Take a different route to your desk, your cubicle. Take a different route. Listen to a different radio station. Like, that's a big one. People like, I can do that? Yes, please do that. All of these little things that you can do to change up your patterns in your day will give you a different result. You will start to see different things and perceive things differently. It's really a simple way to change up your pattern.
Well, that's really You have so much wealth of knowledge. I appreciate you sharing all of this. Can I ask you, like, if somebody's interested in being a coach now, what is your point of view? Do you feel like there's like too many coaches out there? Can anybody be a coach? Like you kind of touched upon before, like this, there's people selling like these coaching programs for like, $10 on Facebook or whatever, on somewhere online. What advice do you have to people who are maybe interested in coach? Like, do you say, hey, I'm sorry, there's too many coaches out there? Or do you encourage people to be a coach? Or do people need certain like trainings or life experiences to be a coach? What's your point of view about that?
But we have a little philosophy in our world here at Project Find Your Fire is have a coach, be a coach, coach yourself. Have a coach, be a coach, coach yourself. What that means is have a coach. Like we mentioned before, everybody should have a coach. Everybody needs somebody to hold themselves accountable, get to goals faster, all of these different things. Be a coach. Does that mean that you should be a coach for a lot of other people and be a professional coach? Not necessarily. Not everybody should be a coach. But for those people around you, certainly be a coach for them. And coach yourself. The hardest advice for anybody to follow is our own advice. But generally, it's pretty good advice. So you can coach yourself. But the be a coach and coach yourself kind of comes with an asterisk. Know what you're doing. Know what you're talking about. Now, coaching your friends and being around them is really just giving them advice and offering support to them. And that's fair. I mean, we should do that to our friends anyway. The advice to ourselves, yeah, you should probably follow your own advice. Most times it's right. But if you want to go further, my recommendation is that you can get the certification. That's fine. But I want you to go to the local college and I want you to take audited classes. Audited means you're not part of a degree program. You're just taking the classes. Take all of the psychology and human behavior classes that you can find and that you can take as an audit. A lot of times audit costs are cheaper, and that's going to give you a familiarity with the research that's been done on human behavior and cognitive development throughout all of time. And you should have a pretty good understanding of some of those philosophies and concepts. Does that mean you need to be able to recite all of Piaget's work? No, not at all. But be familiar with something. Right? And then if you want to continue further, dedicate yourself to the craft. You don't have to write your own methodology. There are others out there that you can use, but be 100% dedicated to the craft. I see people trying to coach that really, I don't know if I would ever take them on as my coach, just because I'm looking for somebody who can set themselves apart from the group. Right? There's always going to be a herd, an influx, and that's what we've got. But what sets you apart from others? And for everyone, it's different. Maybe they have a specialty. Maybe it's trauma coach or relationship coach or, whatever it might be. Maybe they have something they want to really specialize in. But then they must do the work, not just online courses, but go out and really do the work to become the best that you can at that. So I'm not going to say that everybody can be a professional coach, nor should they. But those who would like to, I think that it's far, far more than just getting your coaching certification and trying to get clients. I think you owe it to the profession to do more for yourself.
Thank you very much for that. If somebody was maybe interested in reaching out to you, they have questions about this interview, or they're interested in hiring you as a coach, what is the best way of doing that?
The best way probably is to go to projectfindyourfire.com. From our website, you'll find some resources. You'll find some of our products, and you'll find a link about the coaching, and you can get in touch with me through that link. Also, our email is on that. You can always just send me an email. It also has links to all of our social media so that you can find me on Facebook and TikTok and LinkedIn. I'm just starting on LinkedIn. My own coach has been badgering me a little bit about starting LinkedIn, and I have been kind of avoiding it because I had just been, I kind of got the gig anyway. So it's not like I'm looking for a job. So if you find my LinkedIn, I'm still building that. So it's still a work in progress.
Now, I mean, do you have any like plans, like in your future, like your future goals or vision you'd like to share with the audience? Like, is there any like new projects you're working on, or maybe new events you're setting up in the near future you'd like to share with?
Yeah, I've got a couple books that I'm working on. One is The Art of Self-Dismemberment. That's the working title of it. It's about cutting away all of those parts of ourselves that don't serve us and sort of re-becoming who we should have become in the first place. I've got another one coming out that's called Hunting the Great Man Killer, which is about controlling ego and what that looks like in your own life. I try to write not in a scientific sort of way. I've done enough research that I'm also tired of writing that way. So I try to write in a more easily to digest method. But I've got, a lot of speaking engagements coming up. One of my goals that I haven't done yet, but one of my own goals is to do a TED. So that's something I'm working on. So you should see that coming up pretty soon. I'm going to jump right in.
Wonderful. And we're coming to like the end of the podcast now. Is there any anything else you'd like to share with the audience from your all your knowledge, expertise? They think it's important for the audience to know.
One thing that just popped into my head, I don't have that one point that I always tell people, but one thing that just popped into my head is I grew up on the Nebraska-South Dakota border, and the reservations there are very, very poverty-stricken. And there's something I had heard there called slow elk hunting. Now, slow elk is a cow, essentially. And so the young men would go out in the middle of the night, slow elk hunting, essentially going out to kill somebody's cow. And they would load them up in the truck and come back to the reservation. And they would butcher the meat all night long. And then by the next morning, they would take these packages of meat and deliver them to everybody in town. And I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, that's really one of the only ways these people eat. But more so, these young men are risking their own livelihood if they get caught. And if they get caught by the wrong rancher, they might be risking literally their lives in order so that they can provide something for everybody else, so that they can put meat on everybody else's table. And so I have a whiteboard here behind the camera, little notes to myself or things that I'm working on. And one of the notes is actually, what is your slow elk? So that's a question that I like to ask people, knowing the story and where that is. And so what is my slow elk? What is it that I'm risking so that I can lay on the table for everybody else? What am I bringing to the table? And what am I risking to do that? What is my slow elk? And so as you know that story now, I think that's a good reminder to always ask yourself, what is my slow elk? What am I really bringing to the table? And what am I really risking to provide for everybody else? If the answer is nothing, then we need to probably find a slow elk for you. But What is that, and what does that mean? So that's my last tidbit of information.
Thank you. A question that's popped up in my mind, being that you do have an academic background. Are there any particular like books, like self-help, in the self-help genre that you recommend that people read? Is like any particular book, like Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, or anything like that? That it's like it's really could be like life-changing to people if they read it.
Yes. Actually, I have a great answer for that. I've been asked that question a few times before, and here's my answer. Dr. Seuss. Anything about Dr. Seuss. If you read through a Dr. Seuss book, it will give you every life lesson that you ever need to know to be successful in life and business. As odd as that sounds, it's true. But really the basis of it comes from, yes, I have a giant bookshelf here. This is one of our bookshelves. We have like 6 giant bookshelves in our home, all filled with all kinds of books. Yeah, I could list off a number of books for you, and you could read them. But will it change your life? No, it won't. Not until you take those words and literally incorporate those concepts and principles into your life. That's when your life's going to change. So don't complicate it with, oh, I need to go read Think and Grow Rich. Oh, I need to read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, which is also a great book, actually. But you don't need to do that to change your life. What you need to do is take those basic principles and incorporate them. It doesn't matter who they come from. And that's why I say Dr. Seuss, because it's simple. It's a one-liner. And in fact, one of my books right here, I can see it right there, is Seussisms. And I look at it every day.
Wow, you really surprised me with that one. I thought you were going to say something like, Tony Robbins or something like that. I mean, I used to love Dr. Seuss as a kid, and that was very inspirational. I used to demand my parents read it to me when I was younger. So I can definitely concur that it is a great book to read. So Kelly, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing all your knowledge and wisdom with our audience. You definitely had a lot of great pointers there, and you shared a lot of great experiences. Was there anything else you like to mention before we end the podcast?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of material. I really enjoyed our conversation, Daniel. I thank you for having me on. I'm humbled.
Oh, thank you so much, Kelly, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for all your inspirational, words and everything you're doing. We need more people like you that inspire people to be a better version of themselves.
Thank you. I appreciate that.